He's anxious, you're avoidant, she's avoidant, you're anxious. This is the anxious avoidant trap, the remake. Hi everyone, Marianna here. I am your attachment coach. I am a clinical expert on anxious attachment style, effective sciences, and I'm also a therapist. I have this video, okay, the anxious avoidant trap, the remake, because I have made this video before and it's probably the one video I have that has the most views. Of what I call the most views. And there was some background music. People couldn't really hear me. It was really old. So I have made a whole new one with even new data for you to see. And obviously I'm a little bit more articulate. So I hope you enjoy it. I made this for all the people that love me and for all the people that hate me, for both of you. So let's begin. Okay, so the anxious avoidant trap, the premise of the whole relationship is colliding intimacy needs. Anxious and avoidant, okay, they are opposite sides of the same thing. And this is a little bit difficult to grasp, but it's almost like they both want a relationship, they both want to be happy, they both want to settle, but they act in opposite ways. So I'm going to explain this further in a little bit. So let's go over the basic information. In an anxious avoidant trap, we fall into it with almost no awareness. Like you just bump into it and you don't know how you fell in it. Most of the time is because an avoidant person, this is if you're anxious, okay? Because this is a channel for anxious attached people. If you're anxious, you fell into it with almost not even realizing it, no awareness, right? And once you're in it, you're like, how did I end up here? So don't hit yourself too hard on the head with this, because usually the avoidant presents himself as very charming or very interested or very enthusiastic, and this is not that they're faking it, okay? Avoidants do feel the need for closeness, they do feel the need for a relationship. It's just that in the beginning they do that, and once there is some sort of level of closeness, all they think about is how do I get rid of this person. Okay, but that is just how they're wired. And if you're already in it, okay, I'm just here to tell you that even if you get help or whatever, just know that an avoidant is a person that has a very low prognosis of changing and is not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. So we already understand what the conflict is. The conflict is colliding intimacy needs. One partner wants intimacy, the other one is uncomfortable when things get too close. Okay, that's why maybe in beginning stages, or maybe if you're actually married, when you go on a vacation and there's some sort of bonding and you're really happy about it, then this person starts to get cold, starts to pull away, and it's very unstable. That's why it's so hurtful, because anxious attached people, they want stability, and an anxious person, all they do is bring instability onto your feelings, onto your relationship, and it can be very hurtful. So let's go over this part of information that I really need you to pay attention, because this is how the whole dynamic of an anxious avoidant trap works. Okay, so first, let's say there is a threat to the relationship, a fight, a small fight, or whatever it is that you find this person. Give you an example. This person doesn't want to hold your hand. Very classic for avoidance, right? They don't want to hold your hand, or they want to hold your hand maybe for like a block and a half, and then they let it go. They don't want to hold you. So let's say there's a threat. The anxious person uses something that's called activating strategies, okay? We all have an attachment system. In the case of anxious attached people, once you see that your beloved is creating distance, automatically your attachment system starts to spike up, starts to go up, and your attachment system tells you this person doesn't like you, or this person is too far. So it becomes very disturbing to you. Okay, so your attachment system becomes activated, and then what happens is that you detect the distance and you want to get closer. Okay, that is one thing. Now let's talk about the avoidant. Let's say you are disappointed that this avoidant person doesn't want to hold your hand, and you bring it up. Hey, I want you to hold my hand. Immediately, the avoidant detects the threat, and what do? The opposite. Their attachment system, that in your case seeks closeness, their attachment system becomes activated, and they immediately suppress it and turn it off. And they start to create distance. Okay? So pay attention to this. Because you're anxious, your attachment system becomes activated. It reinforces that the avoidant turns theirs off. So when they detect that your attachment system is high and you feel threatened, they immediately sense that, and then they turn off their attachment system. What happens once they turn theirs off? You sense theirs is off, and you become more activated. And then once they become more activated, they go into theirs, and theirs turns off even more, and then they go up to you, and you feel way more threatened, more activated. And then when you're more activated, they sense it, and then they turn there even more. And you understand this cycle? It's a very vicious cycle, and that's why it's called the anxious avoidant trap. And sometimes we don't realize that we're doing this. Okay, so this is probably the most important part of this whole video, so that you understand what the dynamic is. Okay, so when both feel in danger, what is that the anxious person thinks? The anxious person thinks, I'm getting abandoned, I'm not lovable, this person doesn't want to hold my hand, I'm not good enough, or what the hell, why would you not hold my hand? What's the problem with me? Do I have some sort of virus or something? Like, am I not worth enough to be held? And what is the avoidant thought? The avoidant thought is, I don't want anyone to get in the way of my autonomy. That's what they think. And then let me go a little deeper on this, okay? Avoidance, and you can watch my video on your avoidant partner, part 1, part 2. I'm going to release part 3 next week. And what they think all the time, okay? If you're anxious, you think, I don't want to get dumped. I don't want to be rejected. I want to be loved. I want more closeness. I want more commitment. That's what we tend to think. When it comes to avoidance, they don't think that. They're like, I want no one to get in the way of my independence. I want no one to get in the way of my autonomy. I want no one to control me and tell me what to do. I want to be the lonesome traveler, and they always want to look available. So that is their motto. That is how they walk around life. So I just want you to know, so if you're getting triggered by your avoidant beloved, this is what it's in their heads. So let's go back over here. So remember, we talked about the conflict, colliding intimacy needs. The conflict itself, that there is not enough intimacy, is what dominates all of your conflicts, all of your fights, no matter how they look like. Really, the core conflict is that your avoidant doesn't want closeness with you. And that is what all the fights are about. I was reading a book, and there's a story of this woman who was avoidant, and her husband was anxious attached, and she goes to her sister's house to do her laundry, and he's like, well, let me buy a washing machine. And she's like, no, I don't want it. I want to go to my sister. And that created a conflict. The conflict wasn't really about a washing machine and I like my sister. The conflict was that he felt like she was going to her sister to do her laundry to escape from him, And she was trying to create distance from him. So with this, I'm trying to give you an example. Sometimes it may be a conflict that may look like it's about a washing machine or about laundry, but in reality, if we go at a second layer, the real conflict is that there's not enough conflict. There's not enough closeness and there's not enough intimacy between the two of you, and that irritates you. Okay, so the cycle between the two parts is exacerbating each other's insecurities. Remember, the insecurity of the anxious is, I don't want to be abandoned, I don't want to be rejected, I don't understand why I'm not lovable, and the insecurity of the avoidant is, I don't want anyone to get in my autonomy, I don't want anybody to get in the way of my independence, I don't want this, I don't want that. You understand? So with this cycle, what you're doing is that you're exacerbating each other's insecurities. That's why it becomes so difficult to get out. So now let's go over some important facts. We went over the dynamic, we went over the symptoms, and now let's go over some facts that I have for you. If this is your story and if it resonates with you, I really want you to know this, okay? So first is that if you are the anxious person, you are the one making all the concessions and you're going by your avoidance rules. Okay, that's number one. Number two is that the lack of intimacy and the lack of closeness will spill and spread wherever you go in your relationship. No matter what topic you're talking about, the underlying feeling, the underlying negative feeling that your relationship has lies on the fact that you are unhappy because your needs are not being met, and you're gonna carry yourself through the relationship and walk through this whole relationship unhappy because you don't have the closeness that you need. And the outside world will always see you as the person that can never be pleased and can never be happy. And that's not true. You're actually suffering because this person's not giving you the closeness that you want. Another thing is that conflict is always left unresolved. Okay, this is very, very common, and it happened to me all the time. Whenever there was a conflict, however the conflict looked like, or the reasons, however it looked like, I knew that the reason why I will bring this up, the reason why there was conflict is because there wasn't enough closeness for me. And no matter what happened, it would always come up. It's just going to taint. It's like almost like you have a pot of ink and it explodes. Everything you talk about is going to have that undertone of, I'm not happy, I'm not having my needs met. When things are left unresolved, okay, the avoidant person really needs to leave things, when you have a discussion, the fights tend to be really long and they tend to be really unproductive. And it's on the avoidant person's advantage to leave them airy and not resolved. That's why after every fight or after every conversation, after every sermon, and just sitting there talking, you leave the conversation dissatisfied. You're like, you know what, that didn't hit the spot. We didn't make up with a loving hug or with great makeup sex. Like, no, it was almost like left, all right, okay. And then you just kind of like, avoidants need that. Avoidants need to leave things unresolved, because if things are resolved with a loving hug, with makeup sex, what happens? Intimacy grows, closeness grows, which is what makes them the most uncomfortable. If you're anxious, you are the one that's becoming more overwhelmed by negative emotions. Avoidance, because they're used to suppressing their attachment system, they're trained to care less, or they're trained to not care at all. So if you're anxious, you're the one that's always going to get the worst part emotionally. If you're anxious, remember, you will remember the best. If you're anxious, let's say you have a fight, once you're done with the fight and you're separate, you're mad at each other, right? What the other person is thinking, what the avoidant is thinking is, ugh, I really hated her teeth. I really hated that thing that she would put on her hair. I really hated that excessive blush she's wearing. I love blush. So that's what they think. And they think, they remember the worst, the most negative things about you while you're in a fight. Well, you're in a fight, what you remember is the best, and the best moments, and the best times, and his or her best attributes. Another thing is that avoidance will remember the worst. Anxious, you will fail to resolve the conflict. I know you're trying. Trust me, I know you're trying to fix the conflict, okay? But the more you're trying to fix it and the more anxious you become, the more they would suppress their attachment system because you're seeking closeness, okay? So after you have a fight or after you bring something up, this person would suppress their attachment system, distance themselves from you, and what happens? You are gonna go crawling, begging for forgiveness, even though you were, I would say, on the right to say your feelings. This person is just gonna be like, oh, you don't like it? Okay, well, peace. And then they start to distance, and then what do? You go back and you're like, no, don't leave me. Okay, and then you're trying to kind of beg for that unhappy place you originally had. And it doesn't make much sense. And then when you're actually on it, this person says, okay, fine, I forgive you. And you're back originally in that unhappy place that you had for a long time, that you're like, okay, well, I'm still unhappy. So no matter what, you will be unhappy, okay? So in the end, the only thing that makes this type of relationship break is when you finally give up. When finally you give up your hopes of a good life together. And that is really what you want to focus on. If you see that it's not going to happen, we have to accept it, because avoidance are avoidance. They're also humans, and they are who they are. If your partner is avoidant, trust me, he or she, they are who they are, and we need to accept that. I know you're trying to change this person. I know you're like asking all the relationship gods to transform this person, but that is not going to happen. And really, what I rescued from that anxious avoidant trap experience that I had was not onto how to help my avoidant partner. It was to how to help myself not be anxious attached, or to at least have my anxiety under control. And if it wasn't for that experience, I would have never sought help. I would have never sought help of any kind, and I would have never bumped into this topic. I would have never created Become Secure Now. I would have never helped the people that I have helped. And just know if you're going through the same experience, there is a reason for it, okay? Don't reject it. So I have a list of things that usually happen in an anxious avoidant trap that I want you to know. It may not be your case. Most of the time it is. I've seen a lot of my clients that come to me and they're either in the middle of the anxious avoidant trap or they actually ran away and left. Is difficult, but it's not impossible. I've been there myself, and I can tell you that this is probably one of the most difficult things. When I meditate and I think about things that I've done in the past that have seemed pretty impossible to reach, but I want to gain some belief, I think of this. And I think of my own experience with the anxious avoidant trap, but people completely lost faith in me. No one would believe that I will leave this guy until I gather the strength and the training. Sometimes you're afraid of doing something because you don't have the information and you don't have the training onto how to go about it. And that is actually when I started to seek help and how I ended up becoming a therapist myself. And that's why this topic is very dear to me, and I really wanted to make a video with very simplified information so that everyone can understand it. And I just want you to know that you're not alone in this. I've held the same emotion, and I'm here for you. You know, if you need me, I need to ask me any questions, don't forget to leave me a comment and give me a like and subscribe. So let's continue. Besides exacerbating each other's insecurities, right? There is a list of things and symptoms and signs of your relationship on how it may look like if you're an anxious avoidant trap. So there is something called the roller coaster effect. By the way, I found this list on this book called Attached. If you want to buy it, it's really good. If you want to learn the physiology and some of the psychology of attachment signs. So the roller coaster effect, okay, is when, let's say you have a partner, your partner is highly avoidant, and this person never gives you compliments to, you know, disengage, right? But all of a sudden, this person starts to caress your face and tells you, you look stunning tonight. And you're like, oh my God, my prayers were answered. He's normal. You know? No, he's throwing you a bone. Okay, and what happens? That's called the roller coaster effect, because you're in a super high and this person is going to give you the compliment. This person is going to be lovey-dovey once in a while for you to throw you a bone, and you catch it. And once you're in a high, what they want to do is grab a bucket of ice, dump it on you, and give you a low. That's what avoidants are wired to do. Okay, so that's called the roller coaster effect. And this is what makes this relationship so painful, because the instability is, the peak and trough is so big, because of this. So once in a while, this person's going to throw you a bone and act nice. Act nice in the way that you want them to act nice. Okay. Second is the emotional counterbalancing act. So what is that? I don't know why they came up with that name, to be honest. It's kind of long. So the counterbalancing act is how an avoidant needs an anxious person. An avoidant and avoidant cannot coexist. They would dump each other within the next 15 minutes, or they'll hit it off and then ghost each other. That's what's going to happen. A secure person and an avoidant, the secure person has a big radar for who people are, and it's pretty natural to them. So the secure person is not going to put up with the avoidance bullshit and the avoidance behavior for too long. So this relationship is only bound to last for about, 2 weeks, tops a month. That's why avoidants need anxious people so badly in their lives, because avoidants feel this moral superiority at not needing any closeness, not needing any intimacy, and thriving on their independence. They need the anxious attached person, because the anxious attached person always tends to feel less. So that when you display that feeling of being less, the avoidant sees that, sniffs that, witnesses that, and that makes them feel even more powerful. So that's why this person doesn't break up with you, because you're like, well, if you don't like me, you don't want to sleep in the same bed with me, you don't hold my hand, you don't take me to your friends, you don't commit with me, you don't take me to your parents, you don't include me on anything, you treat me like crap, why don't you just break up with me? And that is the classic question that I get from a lot of my clients. And I explain this is because these people, these avoidants, will need anxious attached people to feel more powerful. If you have a situation where you're in it and you feel powerful, would you leave? Of course not. Would you get rid of that source of power? Of course not, because why would you, right? So that is the reason why an avoidant may seem like he doesn't like you or she doesn't like you, but they keep you because of their counterbalancing act. Another one is stable instability, right? Avoidance will always inject instability in you because they want the relationship to not plateau and go somewhere. They want the relationship to be wobbly and roller coastery, because that when you take away instability, you take away any sort of smooth progress towards closeness. Another one is constant small fights. And this is what I told you. The inner dialogue of your relationship may look like different small fights, but the reality of it all is that at the end, you need more closeness and you're not getting it. Or your partner may need more independence and more space and he's not getting it or she's not getting it. So it's that the conflict always, in the end, the root conflict is the collision between the disparity of the two needs. He needs closeness, she needs distance, okay? Treat it as the enemy in the inner circle. This is very common, okay? This person, this avoidant will take you home to mama. He will or she will, and take you to his or her friends and just welcome you to his or her inner circle. But while you're in it, you're always going to be mistreated. And this person is always going to call you names or be sarcastic in front of people to just kind of like, you know, look like you're not there to last too long because they always want to look available. Then you're going to experience a hostage feeling. And this is probably one of the most important signs and symptoms, and this is when you really need to think seriously about leaving this relationship. When you're starting to feel hostage is when you start thinking, if this person doesn't like me that much, why doesn't he break up with me? Why do you need me in your life? And then you're also thinking, but me, why am I here? Why am I in this relationship where this person doesn't even like me, doesn't even respect me, doesn't even want to commit? I don't understand. Or why did you even marry me? You know, that's when you start asking, why did you even marry me? Why did you even propose to me? Why, if you don't want anything to do with me, okay? So when you start experiencing this hostage feeling, that means it's time to go. Okay, so pay attention to this because these are the reasons why you don't go. Okay, one is that if you're anxious attached and your partner is avoidant, is that you believe that if you dump this person, this avoidant is going to go to someone else, and this avoidant is going to be that person you wanted, and this person is going to transform itself for someone else and not you. I'm telling you right now, that is 100% a bullshit lie that your own beliefs is making up in your mind. If you dump this avoidant, the avoidant is not going to be the best partner for the next person. The avoidant will be avoidant to the next person. Second is that you feel he owes you, okay? Because anxious attached people, and this is on another video that I have, it's called The Dark Side of Anxious Attachment. We tend to give it all, right? Anxious people, we tend to give it all. But in reality, sometimes what we're doing is we're secretly bribing our partner because we want to buy more closeness and we want to buy more respect. So as we're doing that and time passes, this person starts to rack up quite a debt, you know, because we've given so much. And that is another reason why we don't leave, because we're like, okay, well, what about the car that I bought him? What about I paid for his career, I paid for his master's, and I paid for her this, I paid for her boobs, and I did all this, and I did all that. And no, I'm not leaving. And I'm not leaving until this person shows me at least some change, some closeness. And that's why we don't leave, because we still believe that this person needs to pay, needs to give us some sort of payback for all the love and all the support that we've given them. And the third reason why you don't leave, it's because you you believe in the potential of the past. I don't know if you remember in the beginning of the video when I told you that avoidants do seek closeness. They want a partner, they want marriage, and it's not a lie. They do want it. They just don't know. They just sabotage it immediately. So when you see that this person in the beginning was all lovey-dovey with you and was head over heels for you, calling you, texting you, you're like, woo, woo, you're so high because you're like, damn, this girl really likes me. This person is all over my case, and this person is love bombing the shit out of you. When this person turns into their real avoidant self, you're like, no, I'm not gonna leave because I've seen how you can really be a person that pursues me. I've seen in the beginning, you were so good. In the beginning, you would call me, you would worry about me, you would cook for me, you would do X and X and X and X for me. And you think, right? I'm not gonna leave because I know she has it in her to be great. I know he has it in him to be great, to be an awesome partner. I've seen it, Marianna. I've seen it. I'm like, yes, I know you've seen it. I know you've seen it. But when it comes to avoidance, that is what they do in the beginning. That is who they are, but that is not really who they are when it comes to a serious relationship. That's who they are temporarily in order to get a relationship. But in the end, they're wired to be avoidant. So when I see clients and they tell me exactly the same thing, I don't want to leave because I've seen that he can do it. I've seen in the beginning his behavior, he can do it. And the same thing with women. She can do it. She was great in the beginning. I don't know what happened and how she changed. She didn't change. She actually is showing you who she really is, or who he really is. And that is another reason why you don't leave. Okay, so this is the anxious avoidant trap. I hope this video really served you. My channel always comes with gifts, and my biggest gift to you is a free consultation where you and I can talk for free for an hour, and go into the link below, and then you can see what you can do to schedule a consultation with me. It goes directly onto my virtual book. So you go in it, you pick the time that you want, you fill in an application, we'll go over it together on the phone. I will scan you myself. You will tell me all your feelings or your emotions or where you are in life, and it's gonna be the most productive 60 minutes of your life that you will invest in your self-growth. So we'll talk, and I want you to know that I've been through the same thing. I've been through the same emotion. I know how difficult it is, and I don't want you to think you're by yourself. You're not alone. I'm here to help you. I send you a huge kiss and a hug, and I wish you all the best, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.